the name the Weizmann Institution of Science. You've probably heard of it because a lot of the well-known scientists from Israel come from this very high-esteemed institution. And I think it's probably due to the man who stands at the top of it, those who came before him, but probably the one who stands at the top of it now, Professor Daniel Zajfman. He became the youngest president of this institute, and he hopes to grab the students to science education way before they come to him. Professor Zajfman?
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for inviting me. The Weizmann Institute is indeed a scientific institution where we do scientific research, but for more than 50 years, we've been very much involved in science education through different aspects of it, or different, I would say, regular bodies. One of them is, of course, the Davidson Institute of Science Education. The other one is an academic part of it, the science teaching department, which is doing research on science education. And the third one, which is probably less known, is the fact that we are establishing in this country science education centers where kids are studying physics and chemistry, basically, and I'll say a few words about it at the end, outsourcing the teaching from what is usually called the governmental way of doing science education to bodies that are independent and basically provide services to the government. But let me tell you a few things, first of all, from the Weizmann Institute point of view, when we look at our students, and for those who do not know, we only have graduate students. And very often people ask me, so how do you find the students today? I mean, what do you think about the students who are starting their master and PhDs today relative to those who are starting them or who started them, let's say, 30 years ago? And I'll surprise you by saying probably that the students we have today are much, much better than the one we had 30 years ago. Now that's interesting because it says something about the education system in Israel, which everyone has been complaining about it, saying that our system cannot educate anymore the future scientists and the future Nobel Prize. I've been the president of the Weizmann Institute for 12 years. I've been at the Institute for 27 years. I tell you, it's wrong. We can. We do it. There's absolutely, there's no problems. Same thing actually for the young scientists we have been hiring for the last, let's say, 10 years. If people ask me, are the young scientists, PI, professors we're hiring today as good as those we hired in this country 30 years ago? My answer is yes, they're actually much better. And I know something about it. I was hired by the Weizmann Institute 27 years ago, so no problem. Now, what are we looking at when we look from the Weizmann Institute, an institute which is trying to really educate the future scientists of this country? What do you see in the education system? What do we believe should be, let's say, the high school system, not at the university? If I talk about university, I'll take just a step before. What do we believe is needed into our education system in the primary, high school system? And while everyone is being focused on trying to understand what need to be the materials of the curriculum and how much physics, mathematics, nanophysics, bioinformatics, whatever you want, what we see is something totally different. We remark that our best students, our best scientists are not those who know most. It is not true either. It's not the knowledge which is important, and I think we will all agree that even perhaps 30 years ago, knowledge was a critical issue. It is not anymore today. I mean, of course, you need to know something, because if you're stupid, you're not going to go very far. But if you really know a lot, and the only thing you know is what you know, then there's absolutely no room for research, discovery, and imagination. What we're looking for, actually, are students, young students, who have been educated through the education system for curiosity and for passion. Knowledge is good, but if you're passionate and curious, what you don't know on one day, you'll know the next day. And so what we are requiring is a system which is educating for passion and curiosity, namely for the willingness to learn. And the question is, of course, how do we do that? How do we create a system, and I'm talking, let's say, high school, where the students, the kids, let's say, age 12 to 18, will get into it and will want to learn something. And through our operations of science education for more than 50 years, what we have learned when we try to increase the curiosity of kids, because that's what basically the Davidson Institute is doing, and also quite a lot of the Department of Science Teaching and the science centers we're creating in this country, is one thing which is very important to the kids is not what they're learning, or if you want, the relevant question is not asking our kids, what would you like to do when you'll be a grown-up? Try to go back home and ask your own kids, what would you like to do when you'll be a grown-up? And listen to the answer. And you'll listen very carefully, and you'll see they never answer that question. They never answer the question. They answer another question. They answer the question, who would you like to be when you be a grown-up, right? If you ask, what would you like to do? They say, I like to be, a businessman. I like to be a sportsman. I like to be a singer. Some of them will tell you they like to be a scientist. Not many. But listen to the answer. It is someone. It's not something. And I think there's a secret here that we do not pay attention enough. And the secret is that for kids aged, let's say 15, the choice of an education path is actually a personal choice. It is an identity choice. I want to be like someone. I don't want to do something. And I think that point is a very, very important one that the education system is missing by trying to educate kids in certain area and even specializing them. For example, we see today in the high school where we try to create in the mind of the kids the curiosity to be a scientist by studying, let's say, nanophysics or nanobiology or very advanced topics, which, by the way, will become immediately irrelevant in the next 10 years, as you realize. And that's another point. The second point is, what do we need to teach, really, when we get there? And, of course, we can use all kind of technology to do that. That's fine, and I fully agree with Yafa that only technology will not solve the problem. What we need to teach them is actually the basics. If you want to have a society where in 20 years from now, those who have learned something will not be moved from their jobs, right? AI and artificial intelligence now is claimed to be able to replace, millions of people in their jobs. If we don't want that to happen, by the way, I'm not very worried about that because, remember 100 years ago, most of us would actually pick potatoes in our fields, and then came mechanical agriculture, and it moved all these people to another job. It was a huge crisis, but we have a much better society. So yes, we move people from their jobs, but at the end of the day, we get a much better society, a better life. And so yes, AI will move people from their job, but if we want to avoid all these people to move, what we need to teach them is the basic. We need to teach them the basic mathematics, the basic physics, the basic biology, the basic chemistry. And I'm not only talking science, of course, we also need to teach them English and languages and so forth, but that's taken. And instead of moving into the specialization fields and trying to educate early on our kids into very highly sophisticated area, which anyway will be wiped out very soon, we should go back to the basic and focus on this. And the last point I'd like to say is, in order to really create a system where our kids want to learn, what we need to create, and I go back to the question, who would you like to be, is a status. Remember the famous sentence of Groucho Marx who say, I wouldn't like to be part of a club that would like me as a member of that club, right? That's a very important statement. Ask yourself why, for example, in Israel, kids who are finishing high schools, so-so, when they get into the army, they like to go and to become paratroopers and Golani and all kind of, very fancy job that they're willing to take at the age of 18. While in high school, they're not willing to learn mathematics and physics at the highest level. The reason is status. If you're a paratrooper, you can call your friend and say, I'm in the army, but I'm not a job guy. I'm doing something very special. So we decided many, many years ago to create science teaching center. One in Tel Aviv is called Chemda. We have another one in Rehovot called the Schwarzheisman Science Education Center. We're creating a third one in Rishon LeZion. And what we do there, we only teach physics and chemistry. That's the only thing we do for the high school. The kids do not stay in their school. They come during the daytime to our classroom, and we teach them physics, and then they go back to the school. So there's no more physics teaching in the high school, but we do it. Outsourcing. And we create a system where the teachers are all PhDs, the kids are learning with labs, that's a given. There's no way to learn science without labs. It's like learning swimming without a swimming pool. But most important, we create a status. This is the Weizmann Institute way of doing things. Everyone, believes that the Weizmann Institute is a good place. And suddenly, everyone wants to come and study physics. Not because physics is interesting, not because even they think physics is important, but because it is status. And it allows these kids to say to their friend, I'm learning physics at the Weizmann Institute. It's totally wrong. It's not the Weizmann Institute, but we are behind it, and that's enough. And we believe that by creating status-like islands, we can attract kids to do things that we actually need them to do. They don't know it. We create an identity, we create a status, and these kids are proud to be there. Not because physics is so important, not because they believe that's what will, help in their life, it will, or mathematics, but because they are different from the others. The system of today, and by this I'll finish, in almost every country in the world, and including in this one, is a very flat one, where the government try to provide a very flat system where everyone is equal and everyone gets the same thing. That will not work in the future. We know we live in a personalized society. Kids to get personalized. They need to get treated as individuals. They need to feel they have a status into the system. And by the way, that's also the same thing for the teachers. Teachers cannot be just a number in the system. They are the most important people in the education system. And today they see themselves as just a little part, a screw in the whole education system. We must create a system where the teachers are totally different. They are the key part, the front line, and we need to consider that this way. A governmental system will not be able to do that. By the way, the same way that for those who are old enough in Israel, you remember it used to take 30 years to get a phone at home, and it wouldn't work. Once the government decided to privatize the system, then it took a day to get a phone. It was actually cheaper, and it started working. I'm not saying we should privatize the education system, but we can actually outsource it. And it's not the responsibility of the government to operate the education system. The government is responsible for creating the framework, maybe the syllabus. Government should not operate education. Just as they don't build roads, they decide the road go from Haifa to Tel Aviv, and someone is building the road. I believe the system should be, government decide what should be in the classroom, but they should not operate. They should leave it to people who have the ability, the willingness to compete on the system, to create status, and to make a difference. Thank you very much.